Hear me. Okay, I think I got it set up right. All right, guys, welcome to the Saturday morning live stream here at the Garden Like a Viking headquarters in northern Indiana, zone 5B 6A. And I'm a little bit out of breath because I was running up and down. I wanted to gather some stuff to show you guys because the time for starting seeds and thinking and planning about the garden is fast approaching. And for many of you, it is already here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about things like starting up ginger. Yes, you can grow ginger in your climate, pretty much wherever you are. You can grow ginger pretty much wherever you are, but there's some things that you have to plan ahead for. So I've been growing ginger for 4 years now, and I learned a lot of things along the way and I can learn really quickly. That's the thing. Once you understand the foundation and the fundamentals, and then you use the sort of scientific method, I guess you could say, you learn really quickly because, okay, the fundamentals are always the same. The soil health is key. The plant is an expression of the soil, and plants need 5 things: light, water, air, nutrients, and it all has to happen at the right temperature. Once you understand all of these things and have a firm grasp of them, then you can learn to grow things really quick and good. So that, even though I've only been doing the ginger 4 years, I will show you guys what I learned. Because the first year was a total fail. I mean, not a fail, because I learned a lot. So it was not a fail. But it was a fail in the sense of I didn't get a harvest. But then the second year I got a little bit, and then just last year I got a good supply, a good harvest of ginger because I had figured out all the elements that need to happen. So I will be sharing all of that with you guys. Also turmeric, yes. Okay, so hello BWSR Bushcraft, great day here in Northeast Georgia. Okay, that's where you're at, Zone 8A. All right, guys, he's got a great zinnia garden. He's made a couple videos on his channel about that, so you could check that out. Hazel Bell Farms says, hey, I always catch the replay, but not caught the love this week. That's a good way to put it, the love, but I know you meant the live. So welcome, my friend. I'm glad that you're here. Glad you're here. Says steady cool rain in Northeast Florida today. Oh man, I love those kind of temperate sort of area, like ocean type rain. Man, my heart still just calls to the West Coast as far as Northern California, Oregon, and the Washington area. Anywhere the redwoods grow is where I need to be back to. So I feel the calling constantly. Okay, Gary says, good day, first time here, very cool, and thanks for sharing your knowledge. You're very well, Gary Tucker. You're very welcome, yes. Not a problem, glad that you're here. And let's see, Valerie says, hey Nate, thanks for sharing your knowledge. Absolutely, my friend. Our Legato, hello, good to see you here. I don't like squatting, that's a good name. How long after terminating a cover crop should I plant? Anything special I should do? Sorry if this has already been answered. Hey, it doesn't matter if it's already been answered because repetition is key, okay? And each time that I explain something, it helps to learn how to explain it better, and it helps people to understand it better. So repetition is key. But after terminating the cover crop, it depends on what kind of cover crop it is and your method of termination. But generally, you want to wait 2 to 3 weeks because that's going to help the roots break down. So, for example, in my heat-loving patches, I will do the winter rye and the crimson clover or red clover, sometimes cover crops. And those, with the winter rye and stuff, you can't really terminate it in the no-till way. You can't effectively terminate it until it's ready to be terminated. So, and I've explained this in my cover crop videos, don't plant winter rye or winter wheat or something and think that you're going to be planting onions in that bed in April, or that you're going to be planting early cabbages in that bed. It's not going to happen because the winter rye will just keep growing back over and over and over. If you mow it down, it'll grow back. Mow it down, grow back. It's like grass until it reaches the milk stage. So you have to see, and I've explained in the videos, and I'll explain again this coming year, when the right time is. After the plant has said, okay, our life's purpose has been served, and that is to propagate the next generation for that plant. So it says, okay, our life purpose has been served, now we're good. So if you terminate it at that point, it doesn't grow back. And so that's when you want to terminate it, after it's reached that stage. And then you let 2 to 3 weeks for the roots to sort of start to decompose, and the soil food web gets hungry, and then you put your plants in there. Boom, the tomatoes grow, the peppers grow, the squash, all the heat-loving stuff, they love it. The reason, like I said, that I plant the heat-loving stuff is because the time to terminate those is around May, so, but you don't have to do anything in particular. Definitely don't till. I mean, certain circumstances you can. That's more what we call a green manure than a cover crop. If you till it in, it's a green manure, which is not nearly as effective. It's still good though. But a true cover crop, the relationships that you've built in the soil, that's what it's all about. And so anything that you disturb the soil is going to disturb and sort of break those connections that you've spent the time making. Okay, so that's why we don't till them in typically. That guy Chris says, peanut cover crop worked awesome last year for me in zone 6A. Nice. Oh, when did you plant it? Peanut cover crop. So yes, some people want just a quick thing that they can plant and it can be terminated by the cold, but others want something that is going to grow and be building the soil food web over winter. And a really curious thing is happening this year is that the winter rye is actually growing. It's actually growing right now, which is typically totally in dormancy, but it's been such a warm year, man, such a warm year. John Jude says, my tomatoes will replace the winter wheat. Yes, that's a very good way to do it, because the timing of everything is right on point. So we will just terminate that and then typically put mulch over the soil, because remember, you never want to have bare soil. And so once you terminate the cover crop, that's technically bare soil. So we will then either put mulch, preferably a thick layer of leaves for about 2 or even 3 weeks would be ideal. And that will help everything to break down and stay contained. So John Jude says, my winter wheat is 5 inches. Yeah, that's a good size. That's ideal size. Diamitri Saraswati. Good morning, Nate. Good morning to you as well, my friend. Glad you're tuning in. Good early morning to you, right? It's like 4 in the morning there. Let's see. My tomato. Okay. Paulina, hello. Hello from Ohio. I just started onion seeds in my sunroom. Not heated, but don't freeze out there and warmer than outside. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's approaching time to be starting the onions. And so long as you have the appropriate setup, which I'll be showing you multiple videos in the next couple of weeks about good setups, because it is so important that you have the setup. Because like I explained in my other video, don't start seeds too early. It's because of that graph that I showed you. You want it to just have a nice even trajectory. You don't want it to have to crawl towards the light and stuff like that. So, but if you got a good sunroom, sounds like you know what's up. So let's see. Harry says, good morning, Nate. My favorite YouTube channel. Thank you for the teachings. You're very welcome, my friend. It's an honor to be someone's favorite channel. Cecily Cronin says, hi everyone from Western Australia. What's the weather like there where you're at right now? It's middle of summer, isn't it? Yes. Jason says, where's a good place to buy peanut seeds to grow in 5B? Anything that I get like that would be from True Leaf Market. And I put links in the description and to that. So you can go there and you can search for the peanut seeds. Anything in bulk is going to be good from True Leaf. And that's something else I wanted to talk to you guys about was it's time to order seeds pretty soon, you know? So but anything that we get in bulk is going to be from True Leaf. And so, for example, these are alfalfa seeds that I use for sprouting. And these, I keep one of these just for emergency, you know, Armageddon storage, because they will last years like this. They're vacuum sealed. There's no air, no light, no all that stuff. So we can just keep these in the basement for a long time. But then I have another one that I draw from, and then that is what I use to sprout. So If you need bulk, because they also come in like 5-gallon buckets for wheat, you know, because the wheatgrass video will be coming pretty soon. And so that's really good for bulk seeds. But if you're going to order anything like, you can also order regular seeds from there, from True Leaf. But personally, I really like, I mean, I do order some things from there in the small amounts, but I really like Baker Creek, man. I mean, their seeds are, they're always just perfect genetics, really good germination rate, and very timely, and it's free shipping and stuff. So, and no, they're not paying me to say any of that. They don't even have an affiliate program. I looked, which is fine because they're just the real deal. And if you're truly the real deal, you don't need to be paying people to spread your stuff, because the real deal sells itself. And so that's pretty much what we're looking at here. But I noticed that, so they just sent out their seed catalog, and it is by far the smallest one that they've had, at least in the past 5 years. And I don't even see the Tahitian melon squash in here, guys, which is the #1 squash you ought to be growing if you're concerned about food storage and food security. The Tahitian melon squash, and I'm sure it's still on the website if you go, but that is the one that is going to grow to 10, 15 pounds with a big old long neck on it. I got a couple of them in the basement. I should have brought it up. And you can just cut chunks of the Tahitian melon squash's neck off and then save the rest. And it forms like a little skin. And as long as you eat it within like 2 or 3 weeks, the squash will stay fine. And these things stay good for a whole year. I mean, they're crazy. It's unbelievable. And they're basically butternut squash, except a little bit sweeter even. So it's just magnificent. Let's see. And someone said something about leaf mold. Gary, is too much leaf mold a bad thing? Well, the good and the bad are one. They are just opposite ends of the same thing. So yes, there would come a point when too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. And so we would. It depends on what the scenario is. So if you are talking about mulch, then a good 3 to 5 inches is adequate. If you're talking about putting the beds to sleep, I put like a foot of leaf mold on them right now with manures and all that kind of stuff. Most of it's going to break down. A lot of it will break down, but a lot of it will mat down. And so then in the springtime, I'll just scoot it aside and put the transplant into there. And then boom, it acts as a mulch. And there's all kinds of worms. Worms, the favorite food of worms is leaves. They love leaves. And so that's how you attract the worm population, is by creating the habitat that they're going to like. Ooh, yeah. Boy, I dropped a huge chunk of ginger in that one because, well, I got so much of it here and I want to show you guys about it. But let me finish saying a few more things. Yeah, I guess I'll go back to that. So let's see. Lucky Mike says, "Hi Nate, completed the master cleanse this week. Feel amazing. Thank you so much for showing the path to better health. Even the test of willpower empowers me to know I can achieve anything. Thanks." Man, that is awesome. I wish I could save that comment. That is really what it's all about. That's what it's all about, is experiencing better health and then saying, okay, I did this thing and now I know more what I'm capable of. Most people have no concept that they can go 10 days without food. I mean, technically it's not a fast, it's a cleanse, you know, because you are still getting some calories during the master cleanse. But for all practical purposes, it's 10 days without food. So yeah, most people, and so by the time they do that, they're like, what? And I felt energized, I felt great. And now I know that if I go like 6 or 12 hours throughout the day sometime without food, I know I'm not gonna faint. You know, most people's like, oh, I gotta eat something, I'm shaking. Because you've been conditioned to be chemically addicted to the food and to the sugar, to the insulin response and all of that that's pre-diabetic stuff. So we need to really defragilize the body by doing things like the master cleanse. And so we go a long time without that food. And so we know that what the body's capable of, so much more than we currently, and it is the popular understanding. And because way back in the day, the human didn't know where it would always get its food. In the hunter-gatherer days, or just in all the days, our ancestors would go long periods of time sometimes without food. because it wasn't always available. They didn't have the refrigerator, and the crops wouldn't always yield, or there wouldn't always be game, or whatever it is. And so the human body developed an amazing ability to heal and to take that opportunity of no food and to heal itself. It's called autophagy. And so it will take that, it will say, okay, well, there's no food in the intestines, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to find energy. We're going to go to all of the sick and dying cells first. We're going to consume those for energies first, meaning fat storages and toxins and all this kind of stuff. It pulls it out of the system and consumes that first for energy. And so that it gives you more energy so you can find food, because that's what it's all about. So your senses become sharper, and your just everything, your connection with the earth and the energy flow, all of that becomes sharper when you're fasting like that. So I could go on and on about that, but yeah, you got me started on that. It's just such a great thing because the body heals itself. Okay. Graham says, hi Nate, what's the best way to organically make fulvic and humic acids for your garden and also for use in houseplants? Now, the method that I started out using back in the day, that I don't really use anymore because there's no need for it, but is simply making compost extract. Okay, the only real way is right. And says Gary says fulvic is made from humic. Right. And so we're talking about totally natural ways. And the way to do it, if you want it specifically for some reason, is to take it from compost extract, which is just basically putting the compost in a fine screen and then running water over it. You're not agitating it. You're not doing anything else with it. And just the really fine particulates that fall is really the best natural source of those nutrients. But once you start using these things, once you have the leaf mold and the manures, or even if you don't have the manures, once you have thriving, living soil, there's no need for for like specific humic or fulvic acid, so like in the chemicals or anything like that. Okay. So that is my opinion and my experience on that. Because when I was in Northern California, guys, growing there, as you know, and stuff, man, for a number of years, I just had so many experimentations, had these 5 greenhouses right in a row, 100 feet long and stuff. And each one I could feed separate nutrients, and stuff. And the guy, there was so whatever nutrients I requested, the guy brought, he was like, just tell me whatever you need. And so I just had huge lists of stuff all the time. And so I could experiment with all these different things. And then I started learning the actual chemical compositions of a lot of these products. And I come to find out that this, for example, this one jug is called Bud Candy, and it's a finisher. Okay, it's to create heavier oils on your plant, all right, on the flowers of the plant, and it's called Bud Candy, and it's like $350 for the 2.5 gallon, or it might have been the 5 gallon, I forget. But you use that whole thing in one watering would take that easily. Okay, and it was like $350 for that whole thing. And so then I look, and once I begin to see through the facade of all the chemical companies and stuff and advertising, I saw, okay, it is 1% magnesium sulfate is what was in there, and then 99% water. Okay? Magnesium sulfate is Epsom salt. That's it. So they put a tiny little dilute portion of Epsom salts in there. The rest is water, and they sell it for $350 because of the way that they marketed it. And so I begin to see all over the place that's how all of it is. It's all a scam, And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just put in a tablespoon of Epsom salt and get literally the same exact thing for 5 cents instead of $350. So yeah, then that kind of soured me on that, and that opened up the channel ways to me to investigate into all the kind of nutrients and chemicals and all of that kind of stuff. So that's when I found out that the best way is to make your own, and that nature never dissects its nutrient regimens into like N, P, and K, N for the growth, P for the fruiting and blooming and rooting and all of this. Nature just always provides a balanced nutrition. So the forest, for example, or the prairie land doesn't say, okay, well, for March through July, we're going to really supply nitrogen. And then for July through September, we're going to supply silica and then this other bloom booster and stuff. It never does that. It just says year round, we will give you everything that you need when you need it. And it does this through the diversity of microorganisms. So that's the key. So basically a long way to say that, yes, you can make a lot of these things yourself, but it's not all that necessary because nature has already perfected all of this. So it's all about the microorganisms. Let's see, that's kind of funny. I always add a dash of Epsom salt to a new compost pile. Never knew about the highway robbery of nutrient companies. Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And then you learn that, okay, certain plants, like the ones that I was growing there, to help the oils, to help it ripen up, it needs the sulfur. It always needs the magnesium, but it needs the sulfur. And so you switch from cow mag to mag sulfur and stuff like that. But that's a different kind of growing, you know. So let's see. Graham says, thanks. I have amazing seaweed extract that a guy makes here. I could send you a bottle. All the farmers are going mad for it instead of the chemical urea rubbish. Wow. I would like to know the process. I would like to know how that's made. But seaweed, guys, if you got access to seaweed, you really want to go for it because that is some really good stuff. Yeah, up here. It's me, $2. Thank you very much, my friend. First tip of the day. I appreciate you. Let's see. Marie says, hi from France. Hello. I really appreciate the French. Definitely. I traveled through Morocco with a French woman on our bicycles. We landed in Madrid and then rode south through Andalusia and Cordoba and Toledo and places like this. And then we crossed the Straits of Gibraltar on a barge and then landed in Tangier, rode our bicycle through Tangier and all through Agadir, all over Morocco. Yeah, it was just incredible. And I love the French. So anyways, let's see here. Advanced nutrients should be avoided at all costs, completely overpriced. Yeah, I think that might be the people I'm talking about as well. I forget, there was a number of the companies, but man, those were the people really just making the killing were the nutrient companies. My goodness. Let's see. Ms. P says, I did a water-only fast, but on the 5th day developed heart palpitations because I wasn't getting proper electrolytes. I was taking pink salt, but no potassium. Just a tip for anyone considering it. Yes, that is absolutely accurate, and that is a common experience on the water-only fast. That is why I actually don't recommend water-only fasts longer than maybe 24 hours. And that's why the Master Cleanse is sustainable. People are doing 30, 60, 90 days on the Master Cleanse because everything that the body needs to function is there. Sea salt has the 82 different minerals in it. The maple syrup and the lemon juice has all the other things, and the cayenne has all the stuff that the body needs to function. Okay. Let's see. I live in France, but I am originally from Quebec. Oh, Canadian, French Canadian. Okay, well, then I kind of love that. Okay, so you're not full bred. Let's see. Vanessa says, how do you make sulfur? Well, that is a complex process, and I've made a very descriptive video, so check it out. The organic fungicide, fungicide, and I forget what the other one is. So coming at you from southern Oklahoma, zone 7B8A. Really, southern Oklahoma. Okay, southern Oklahoma would be like northern Texas, basically, right? Yes. I drove my van all over the country for like 2 years and went down to just all over the place, driving through Texas it seemed for like 3 days driving through Texas at full speed. It was just crazy. But then cut up north through Oklahoma and all that. So Dennis says, when making the water-soluble calcium, how much does the type of vinegar used truly matter? It doesn't hardly matter at all, actually. You can use rice vinegar, you can use apple cider vinegar, you can use white vinegar, but I mean, it's dead. I mean, it's not as living as the stuff with the like the apple cider vinegar that you can make more vinegar from. That's what you want to use, just because that's always a better practice to use the living ingredients. So that's what I would suggest. But yeah, you can. I mean, what kind of vinegar are you talking about? What's the vinegar in question? Let's see. Mohad Mustakim says, hello from Malaysia. Hello, my friend. Hello from Midwest USA. Yes, Lake Texoma area. Okay. Nice. So yes, you are there then. Now, getting better eating my sprouts. Still taste bland, need more flavor. Yes, the sprouts themselves are bland though. I mean, they are sprouts. So it's like they haven't had time to develop the particular terpenes or the oils or any of this kind of things. So you need to, they go with whatever you have them with. Until you become hardcore like myself, then you just can eat them no matter what, because your body knows what they do. Once the body feels how good it feels to eat like this and to consume these kind of things, then the body makes yourself like it. The body will crave the sprouts because it knows how good it feels. It needs the minerals and stuff. So, but this can be a process, and depending on someone's diet leading up to that kind of stuff, depends on how long that will take. You have to break the addiction first to chemical foods and all of this, and to real intense flavors. You know, American diet is so intensely flavored, you know, in an artificial way, not like in a way like in India. You know, the food in India is intense as well, but it's because of all the spices and the different herbs and all the different kind of stuff. Okay, Luck, who is this? Whoops. $5. Thank you very much, my friend. Whoops. Why does I keep doing that? Yes, who is the, I can't see who, it just says Luck. $5. Thank you very much, my friend. And I was looking at apple cider vinegar. Yes, Dennis, that will work. Apple cider vinegar will work, no problem. And there was another donation up here. Let me see. Here was a Ms. P. That's right. $4.99. Thank you very much, my friend. See through the facade. Yes, that is what it's all about. Because contrary to most people's understanding, the amount of people that are drawing a paycheck by manipulating your perceptions and your opinion is unthinkably enormous. The number of people that are in that group. And when I say they, that's with a capital T, that's who I'm talking about really, is anyone that is drawing a paycheck by manipulating your perception and your experience, your perception and your opinions, which is a lot of people, okay? So don't be fooled, my friend. Oh, was that $50 from Lucky? Oh, nice. Thank you, Tushi. Yes, $50 from Lucky. Thank you very much, my friend. Very nice of you. And yes, I wish you had a question so that I could answer it for you. But I appreciate the support, my friends. So let's see. I've got some stuff I want to show you. And Marie said, it's the microbiome that decides what you like or not. Everything is an acquired taste. Yes, absolutely. And as the microbiome understands what it wants, it will make you crave the things that are good for it, such as the fermented foods. Yes, and this I just pulled up from the basement. Yes, there's a little bit of overflow over the months, but it doesn't matter. But these are the fermented tomatoes, and they are, look, see, from September 4th. And I've been busting into them, and they are delicious. I mean, they are so tangy and effervescent at this point. I eat them with fish, or I eat them with all kinds of stuff. I was putting these weights on top of them, you know, and that will help to keep them submerged. And then once I start eating the container, I'll take the weight out, and then it doesn't matter if they float, you know, because I'll consume it within a week or so. But I've got like a dozen of these in the basement, you know, and they're the purple bumblebee tomato from Baker Creek. And guys, if you're not growing the purple bumblebee tomato, you need to. They also make the pink bumblebees. They also make like a yellow bumblebee, but the purple bumblebees they work so good for this fermentation process, and they work really good for dehydrating. And I got a bunch of them shelf stable. They are delicious, and the plants grow so vigorous, it's crazy. All right, Taida, $5. Thank you very much, my friend. It says here for the rants. All right. Well, that's nice, because that's I love it when some passion, you know, comes through. That's when I like it, because it feels good. Nate, you have to grow some lime basil for tea. So good. Lime basil. Man, I grow so many different kinds of basils, but I haven't grown lime basil. Okay. Let's see. Taida says, hi, everyone. Nate, the horned helmet was a good look. Hanging out with you all on my birthday today. It was a great start to the day. All right. Everybody wish Taida a happy birthday and a prosperous new year with lots of growing. So let's see. If you want to thrive, you got to eat live. Oh, I like that. That's a good saying. Be bushcraft. Yes. If you want to thrive, you got to eat live. I like that. How have I never heard that? Holly says, Hola from Loja, Ecuador, originally from the huge state of Texas. All right. Glad you're here, my friend. Let's see here. I'm just reading into electroculture, and it's crazy what the returns are. Have you ever heard of electroculture? Yes, I have definitely heard of electroculture, but I have not experimented with it because to me, the plants are already doing that. They are already harnessing the current. You know, a current is a flow of charged particles. And so that is by definition what the plants are already doing. And so to me, I feel like nature never puts copper rods next to the plants or anything like that. And so there is not a need for me to do that. But if you have experience with it, let me know the experience. That would be great. I'm always open to new things. Do we need to be concerned about the various basil varieties cross-pollinating? I know it's an issue with mint. Guys, pretty much anything, I mean, more or less, can cross-pollinate. If it's in the same family and stuff, especially the different kinds of mints, they will all cross, no problem. Even different types of oreganos, different marigolds I have crossing and stuff, the Cracker Jack with the orange Hawaii and stuff, and they produce like some other kind of thing. You know, all of that is fine though. It's natural cross, and that's how you get things specifically tailored to your zone and to your climate. They thrive specifically in your climate. Now, the only time that that's a real disadvantage is if, well, one, if you're selling the seeds, you have to know exactly what they are. But for two, if you want, for some reason, specifically only I can have something called lemon basil instead of a lemon or Thai cross. I only want to have a peppermint instead of a spearmint, you know, like that. But if that's not important to you, then it's not going to matter as much. The only thing that really matters a lot is peppers. Peppers cross-pollinate until they are unrecognizable, till the flavor is completely gone. Totally, the second year, they're completely mashed up flavors. Let's see, Tree Rogi says, I hate mint. What? 5 minutes to plant it, 1 year to kill it. Right, yeah, you have to know what you're getting into. You have to know what you're signing up for with mint. If you plant mint, you will pretty much have a friend for life because it's not going anywhere. As far as it's not going away. It's actually going everywhere, all over the garden. But if you, like I have it in a certain area, and I will grow mint in a certain area, and then and just let it totally grow crazy, like 3 or 4 different kinds of mints. But then I cut it down and use it as mulch around if there's like, if there's infestation, or not infestation, but just as a preventative to keep things away from the cabbages and stuff. I'll mulch it around the cabbages and all of that. It just helps to keep things away. Flea beetles in particular. So just plant mint in containers to contain it. Yes, that can happen. Although if you plant mint in containers and it grows up and it flowers and then it falls over, it will drop the seeds outside of the container. And then once that happens, it's off to the races. It will be, you know, it can happen that way. So, Double A, good afternoon to you as well, my friend. And Nick the Gardener says, hi, Nate, just got 5 liters of anaerobic leachate from my worm bin. Cabbages loved it. Why isn't it harmful being anaerobic? Because that is actually a common sort of misconception in the natural farming community now, that aerobic is good, whereas anaerobic is bad. And here is the, oh, Scott Murray, $10. Thanks, Dad. He's watching. So, yes, the anaerobic versus the aerobic thing is that a lot of the books, like the Teeming with Microbes and the Teeming with Nutrients and stuff, they advocate, they try to claim that anything anaerobic is harmful and bad, and that everything you want aerobic. Now, what they fail to understand is that there's actually, of all the microbe species that we know, which is over 20,000 different kinds, and we only understand a small fraction of the ones that are actually there. There's so many yet to even be discovered. So the, one second. So only about 10%, I mean, a real small percentage of the ones that we know of are entirely aerobic or anaerobic. And this is the misconception. People are thinking, okay, because the human mind always wants to dissect into dualism, into left and right, good and bad, black and white, you know, so it always has to dissect. And so it thinks anaerobic or aerobic. And so, but the reality in nature is not that hard of a line. The vast majority of microorganisms are what is called conditionally anaerobic or facultative anaerobes, meaning that they can survive with or without the presence of oxygen. Because there's always, even in an open container, there's going to be an exchange of air from the surface to the bottom and things like that. Through a kind of a complicated process. But so that's the answer, is that it doesn't really matter that much as far as the brews and stuff like that being anaerobic. Nature never puts an air stone in anything, okay? Nature never does that. It always, you will see things without air stones, of course, you know, and it ferments things in that way. And if we think about it as well, is from a nutritional perspective, the nutrition, because I'm always talking about the plant nutrition. So the nutrition of the plant, think of our own, because remember, our body and the soil is one. Our body and the plants are one. And so what is good for our body is good for the plants in this way. When we want to get the most nutrients out of something, we keep it away from oxygen, from light, and from heat, right? And so we put it in an airtight container in the dark in the refrigerator, and that preserves the nutrition in it the most. And that's why when you juice something and you so you make a pineapple and wheatgrass juice or something, and then you just leave it set out, or you put it in the refrigerator for all this time, it's been exposed to so much oxygen. And it's the oxygen that breaks down the nutrition. And we know this in diet and nutrition. Okay, so we try to preserve those by keeping oxygen out of the brew and out of the food. And we keep light out of it and we keep heat out of it. And so it's the same with the plants in a way. That a more complete type of plant nutrition is come from keeping the oxygen out, meaning anaerobic, and keeping the light and the heat out. Oh, the heat is relative, but definitely the light and the oxygen. See? So that's kind of a long rant about that, but that is why it just doesn't matter. Don't be afraid of anaerobic stuff. Now, the only time the anaerobic things is going to be an alarm is if your soil has become completely anaerobic, in the sense that you've got terrible drainage and it smells like a pond, like a bad pond. It smells like a kind of a cesspool or something like that. That's when it's bad, because the soil, good organic soil, has air exchange in it. The glomalin, which is produced by the fungi, is like a glue that binds together soil particles. And when it draws together the particles, it creates tiny microscopic air channels in the soil. And so when it's watered or when it rains, think of it's the pressure. It's the hydraulic pressure. As the water goes down, it pulls in air from the atmosphere. And so each time a nice watering comes, it pulls air into the good quality soil. And so it's a complex process, but it's what we don't want is soil that doesn't have those aggregates by tilling it too much or all of that. What we don't want is we don't want soil that doesn't have that air exchange. And then we can smell it, and it smells foul. That's a problem, okay, which you have to fix. But that's not a problem with the microbes, it's a problem with the soil structure. So, Rachel, hello, my friend, says, purple bumblebee ordered along with some purple asparagus. Ooh, nice. Purple asparagus. Yeah, okay, good. You guys are going to like the purple bumblebees, man, big time. So, yeah, look how big. And then, so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to pay like $14 to get their whole seed catalog, which they say is the world's largest seed catalog. And look how much bigger it is. I mean, it really is quite a bit bigger. Look at that. But here's the thing, there's hardly any more seeds in it. It's just 5 times the size of pictures. You see? It's just like a lot more colorful. Like, look at this whole page. I mean, that's a cool cabbage. That's a cool picture. It's beautiful. It's more like artwork type stuff. but it's almost like the same amount of seeds. So, no, that is what it is. And that I turned right to the cabbages. And guys, if you want cabbages, this brings me to something else that I wanted to show you. If you are wanting sauerkraut, man, grow the New Brunswick cabbage. And you can get it from Baker Creek, New Brunswick. These cabbages grew enormous this year. I mean, and they're super cold hardy. It was the very last things I harvested was the New Brunswick cabbages. And they had got snow on them multiple times. And they were just fine. They got sweeter and sweeter. And so I made a bunch of sauerkraut with the New Brunswick. And the Baker Creek catalog, Taida, this one, this is the whole seed catalog. This is the same type of catalog, just this is the free one, Baker Creek seeds. But so on 11/17, I made some sauerkraut in this 2.5 gallon food grade plastic bucket. And the whole thing was full. I bottled up most of it, but I just bottled it the other day. And this stuff is still fantastic. And it just sits in the basement. So it is nice and crunchy and shelf stable. So this did not need refrigeration. This is how our ancestors used to do it, except not in a plastic bucket, of course, in like a crock, in like a earth, crock. And that is designed, that's what things like fermentation is designed for food storage. So this was kept in the basement with no refrigeration, just like these were, no refrigeration, just right out in the open, and they're still perfectly fine. And they're living, they've got bursting with microorganisms. And the New Brunswick, the reason I recommend that one is because it is so sweet tasting, like sweet in a green leaf kind of way, not sweet like sugar, but sweet like just soft and buttery and really delicious. And let's see here. Nate, how would you process seaweed? Well, I would process seaweed simply with the JDOM system of just put it into the barrel with the leaf mold. That is exactly how I would do it. If you had enough of it, you could compost it or even compost it in place on the bed and then put leaf mold on top of that or mix in some manure with that or something like that. You want to mix in a brown with the seaweed because it would be very high nitrogen and all kinds of good trace minerals. So really the best way is to ferment it in the bucket with the leaf mold and the water. And that is going to be really good stuff. It's going to have all kinds of micronutrients in it because of the sea salt and stuff. Amanda says, hi from Central Florida. I saved a ton of watermelon seeds from last year. Could I sprout them and make some kind of liquid fertilizer for my melon plants this year? Let's see. I saved a ton of watermelon. Yes, you can. Although, what's best is, you could sprout them until they were like growing, and then you could take the plant and ferment that into a fertilizer. Typically, when we do the crop residue, that's what we would call that, using parts of the crop to make a fertilizer for this coming crop, for the same crop. That's what we call crop residue fertilizer. And so for that to be a thing, really beneficial, we have to do that in the fall time. We have to make that with like the spoiled fruits, the leaves, the root balls. If we pull those up for whatever reason, typically you'll leave them in the ground though. We will put all of that into the barrel, and that's the best. Just sprouting the seeds and making a tea from it, I don't think would really be enough to make a difference, to really matter. I don't think it would be worth the time and the effort. So, but if you grew them till they were a couple feet long and then composted them in the bucket, fermented them, that would work, yeah. But the best way is to make it in the fall. Laura says, I ferment seaweed with the lab. Been using it for 2 years. That's also a really good way. You can definitely utilize it with the labs. But remember though, guys, with the labs, and of course that's a great way to do it, with the labs, we are not getting nearly the diversity of microorganisms that we are getting when we utilize the leaf mold. The leaf mold has got the huge variety and plethora of different microorganisms, both bacteria and fungi. The labs, the lactic acid bacteria, LAB, that is pure lactobacilli, which there's a number of different strains involved, but it's fermenting it in a totally different way than the leaf mold does. So typically, anything that we are consuming, we ferment with the labs. Anything that we are putting onto the earth, we are utilizing the leaf mold for the most part. The labs is still wonderful, but you'll have a much greater diversity of microorganisms than the labs. So Tree Rogi says, hate mint. Man, you need to reevaluate your relationship with mint, my friend. It is wonderfully healing. I use it all the time in all kinds of things. I even dry it out, and then in my sauna outside, I add it to the water that I have boiling on top of it. And oh man, it's so good. I put it in tea. It's wonderful. Mint is amazing. You just have to understand its growth habits and not make it your enemy, because then it's a very formidable foe if you're trying to get it out of the garden. How long, Becky says, how long would you ferment the seaweed? Then can you put it in the garden, or would you just use the liquid? Typically, if you're going to make a fermented liquid fertilizer, you will be fermenting the solids and drawing off the liquid. So if you had it in a barrel, then you would just draw out of the barrel the liquid and use that. You could put the solids on the garden, but there's never a point when it's like, okay, it's done, it's all used up. It will just continue breaking down. The liquid fertilizers will continue breaking down into like water-based stuff, into plant-available nutrients, and you can just keep adding fresh. Like every month or two, or a couple of months during the season, you can just add some fresh stuff, and that will break down like that. So you never fully empty it. There's no need to, because actually the oldest stuff is the best. It's the most broken down and available. But seaweed breaks down really fast. So you could do it because it's so high in nitrogen and the good minerals and microbes and everything. So Laura Green, $5, 5 New Zealand dollars. Wonderful. Thank you, my friend. Contribution to your rabbitry. Yes, me and her, she's been sending me all kinds of good ideas, visuals and things that she's doing for raising the rabbits. Because like I've said to you guys, I want to get into raising some rabbits here. I want to see how feasible it is. I want to see if it's possible in this sort of urban area and stuff. I mean, once I get land again, it'll be everything. We'll be raising everything. But for now, we are in the city, and so we're fortunate just to even have this massive backyard garden. But I think that we could get the rabbits in there. I definitely think that we could. And I'm talking meat rabbits. I'm not talking pet rabbits. Dimitri says, gotta go, Nate. I have a Zoom meeting. Check out the rest of the Q&A later. All right, my friend. Thank you for stopping by. Good luck with your meeting. Yes. Amuser says, Namaste from India. I have mulched garden with leaves in fall. I want to try no-till garden this season. Should I add compost over the leaves in spring or below it? Thanks. What part of India are you in, my friend? Okay, I've mulched the garden with leaves in the fall. I want to try no-till this. Should I add compost over the leaves or below it? Well, typically the leaves will probably not break down. That's why I ask if you're in the south, if you're in the south of India, it will break down much faster. If you're in the north, like in Rajasthan and some place like that, or even further north, it will take a lot longer to break down. But typically you would want to add, so if you got compost and stuff, then, and you're going to do the no-till with the leaves, you're in the Himalayas, okay, so the north. Then you will want to, if you're going to use that as a no-till method and you're going to use the leaves like a mulch, you will just want to scoot aside an area, a few times bigger than the plant you're going to put into it, and add the compost into to the hole, and then add it around. Because typically we would want to add the compost on the soil surface and then the leaves over that. But that being said, you can also put it in and mix it in a little bit with the leaves. Yes, like that. But you don't want a big thick layer of leaves and then put the compost on top. It doesn't work that well like that. That's not the best use of compost unless you've just got tons and tons and tons of it. Okay. Marcus says, "What's up, Nate? What's up, my friends? Just here doing the live stream." D-Back says, J-Dom is going to be in the U.S. in February, having seminars on his methods on organic farming. Yes, I saw that. Very nice. I recommend to anyone that has the opportunity to check that out. Mint is a formidable foe. That's funny. Yes, it is. Only if you make it that way. Otherwise, it's a gift. So rabbits equal food plus fur plus fertilizer and low overhead. Yeah, that's my thoughts exactly. So I'm looking into it, and I grow so much stuff that I could easily feed them a lot of things, Yeah. So let us see here. A friend here, Graham says, a friend here in Ireland, rabbits have chewed the bark off their young trees. Is there any way to stop it and nurse the tree? Yeah, once they chew that cambium layer, that circular layer, the rabbits and the rats as well, they will chew all the way around the tree. And once that happens, it's game over, because then the tree can't, the vascular system of the tree is compromised. But as far as rabbits, the best thing that I've ever found for rabbits is to go to the hunting store and get some coyote or fox or even wolf urine or lure, okay? Not the stuff that they sell at the like Home Depot and the box stores. They use like coyote urine, which that can be effective, but the coyote lure as well, that's what you want. So because that is like their hormone, their mating hormones. And so you will get the lure of the coyote, like at Rural King. They sell bottles of it, like $8. They sell it anywhere that they sell those god-awful, barbaric, medieval-looking foot traps, for the animals. When you go trapping and it just traps their foot. Anywhere that they sell those, they'll sell the lure. And so get that stuff and then dab it on strips of old t-shirt and tie it at the perimeter or around the trees, and you will never see another one. Because they know, it's hardwired in them. They know that, okay, coyotes are mating in this area, so we are going to go ahead and stay clear of this area. And so that's the best way to do it. Or the other way, old-fashioned way. Let's see. Shirley says, don't see New Brunswick and Baker Creek catalog. I do see Gloria Van Kuzen, which I have heard you recommend for kraut. Yes, and that's also a very good one. That's the best one to plant into spring. And that's the best one actually for like fresh eating as well. I make kraut with it, but I come to realize this is the first year that I really grew a significant quantity of the New Brunswick. And this kraut is just off the chain. I mean, it's so much more buttery and different flavored. It's not quite as soured. It's more like I can eat a handful of this stuff with a meal. Like I'll take a whole handful out of the bucket, set it on the plate, and I can just crunch. It's not super salty, soury, but it's just so good. So now, like I said though, it might not be in the catalog this year, but I can almost guarantee. Oh yeah, look here. You see down here, Brunswick. Maybe they're just calling it Brunswick now, but it was New Brunswick. But it's that one down here. And they say, yeah, large, very cold hardy, stores very well. Excellent market variety that is becoming rare. And I can attest, it was huge and dense, the whole thing. I mean, 2 of them made this whole bucket of sauerkraut. So it was great. And I had like 15 of them. So I was just eating them with, I would cut them up and saute them with some potatoes fresh out of the garden. Oh man, it's also fresh and just delicious. Delicious. With onions and garlic, of course, from the garden. So, Sherlyn says, will that work for groundhogs? I don't have enough garden to share with that sucker. Yeah, man, they can be super detrimental. Now, groundhogs, try it. And that's a good way. You can give it a try. The groundhogs, I had to do this method with, so I don't know if that works for them because they're just not afraid, so they'll just run back on the ground, or maybe they'll even eat the wolf. Let's see. Would you start the cabbage indoors? Val asks. Yes. I start everything indoors, actually. I mean, some things I'll direct seed, but it's just when you only have a limited space, when you have such like a wide open space, it can be different. But when every inch of your garden has to have a purpose, even though this is like 50 by 80 or something like that, but when every inch of the garden has to have a purpose. You don't want to have to wait and wonder if the seeds are coming up yet, or what normally happens is that in the springtime, the slugs are, so my mom, I know you are in the middle of your live stream, was wondering if you would like to ride along. Okay. No, Mom. Well, I'll talk to you later, Mom. So, see, it frazzles me when to, but in the springtime here is the slugs. We have terrible slug population. So they annihilate the seedlings. When you plant something from seed and then it comes up and it just pushes above the surface, that's when it's the most vulnerable. And these slugs here will go down and just mow it down as soon as it pops up above the soil because it's so tender and they love it. And so that's why you'll be like wondering, okay, did these seeds come up yet? And you'll be waiting weeks and weeks and you'll be like, but they haven't come up yet. They did come up. They just got wiped out in one night. Okay. Therefore I start everything indoors. Yeah. And you guys will see, even my flowers, I start indoors because it's just better. You just get a jump on things. And most importantly, you know where to focus your efforts, you know, because I put compost and all kinds of good stuff. And so, yeah. Sherilyn, $20. Thank you very much, my friend. You guys are being awesome today. So, yes, if you have any more questions, let me know. Ms. P says, if the cabbage seeds are rare, would you consider saving seeds for us? Sell them, I mean. Well, you know what? Cabbages are actually a biennial. And so they do not produce seed their first year. They produce all green growth. And then their second year of growth, see, they go dormant over the wintertime. And then their second year of growth, then they bolt. And then they will produce seeds. But here, we don't have, without protection, they're not going to survive this winter. So we actually don't get seed from things like cabbages or collard greens. The collard greens one year did do that though. They survived, but the cabbages have not. I haven't had them go survive the winter. Let's see. Shannon Lagro, that's a good name, says, has anyone died the winter sowing method? I'm sure you mean tried. Has anyone tried the winter sowing method? Trying it for the first time just to see how it works. Just popped in, so apologies if this was asked. Usually indoor sowing to extend the seasons. Yes, winter sowing. I will put a video out pretty soon about winter sowing. So it is really important to understand that the winter sowing is a good way to, the main benefits of the winter sowing are that you get the seedlings, you get sprouts that are already hardened off. That's the number one. And number two, the seed, all the intelligence of the seed knows when the right time to sprout is. So you plant whatever it is that you want into the jugs, and then you set them outside. And then once the seed determines that the conditions are right, it will sprout. And then you let it grow up and you plant it outside. Now, like I said, the big advantage is that you will be able to have seedlings that are already hardened off. So there's not going to be a big long week or 10-day period of hardening off. So whereas you would with the indoor stuff, but you can't grow them up nearly as big as you grow them up indoors. So the winter sowing can work for certain things, yes. Things like basil, I found. It's really good for basil. You can sprinkle them in there. You can even start onions that way. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Has anybody ever seen live feral hogs? Yes, of course. Absolutely. Super destructive to the garden. I'm going to try cucumber by hydroponics. I am hoping it works well for me. Give it a try. Frank says, even the most powerful people start out as helpless babies. Absolutely correct. And they will return. Once a man, twice a child. Very, very true. And Stone Creek says, hey, Nate, can you tell me what to do with moss? It grows everywhere. Just appreciate it, my friend. You can just appreciate it for the most part. You can mix it in with with the soil and stuff like that. It's got good water holding capabilities. It's got good habitat for microorganisms. Use it as a mulch. Okay, but if you mean the kind of moss that attracts like fungus gnats and stuff, then that's an issue with your growing space, and that's what you need to solve. Why is it so wet all the time? But if you're talking about like moss, like from a forest or something, compost it, put it into the soil, use it as a mulch. Yeah, it's very good. Let's see. Yes, on the feral hogs. They run across our property periodically. Let's see here. My second year cabbages are branching and producing more heads. Still no seeds. Really? Well, they probably will once it gets hot enough. BWSR Bushcraft, $10. Thank you very much, my friend and fellow gardener. Let's see. Referencing mold control on wheatgrass. Can Himalayan pink salt be used as a direct substitute for real salt? And if so, what would be the suggested dilution ratio? Okay, let's see. Referencing mold control on wheatgrass, can Himalayan pink salt be used as a direct substitute for real salt? What are you doing with the salt and the wheatgrass? This is, I think maybe you've jumped the gun a little bit and you're trying to make the wheatgrass already. But yes, the wheatgrass, I'm making the video now, but the wheatgrass is well on its way. You see we have this two-part system here where this one is going to be utilized of course, and then this one is going to be utilized second, and then I've got multiple other ones that are staged and ready to grow. You know, they're smaller like this. If you watch my Instagram, you've already seen it kind of, but so this is how we like to make it in stages. Now, the key with wheatgrass is to not put any soil on top of it, and also to never water from the top. You only bottom water wheatgrass. And so what we do is we just take here and we see the roots all coming through and stuff. It's because down here, and this is only like 6 days old. And so down here, I add the water into the thing below and then set this in it, and it absorbs, it wicks up through. And so that mimics more what nature does, and it makes it so that the top never gets wet enough to grow the molds. Another reason you're probably getting mold into your wheatgrass is that you're planting it too densely. So if you plant it, I mean, this is pretty dense. This is as dense as you want it. So if you're having mold issues, one, you want to keep bottom watering. Two, you want to make sure that your airflow is proper and that you've got a good amount of airflow. And three, you want to make sure that you're not overcrowding them too much. And that's going to all really help. So on top of that, if you are getting some mold, you can utilize a lab solution at 2 ounces a gallon or even 3 ounces a gallon of water. And you can spray it on the top or bottom water with it, and the labs will eat up the mold. Okay, so I just gave you a crash course in some really good tips in wheatgrass production. So because, man, this stuff is some of the most potent juice you could possibly make, my guys. It is so potent, so energy giving, so incredible. So let's see here. Did that answer your question though? So to answer the question about pink Himalayan salt, yes, that can be a substitute for real salt in whatever way you want to use it. Let's see. Bottom water, airflow, prevent overcrowding, yes. And then, like I said, you can use the labs if you want, if you have the mold, but you really shouldn't be getting the mold. And if you are, it's an indicator of a malalignment in your system. So oh yeah, what I was going to say about the salt though, sea salt and real salt, and you mean the brand type real from Utah, then yes. And the pink Himalayan salt, all of those used to be sea salts. They're deposits of ancient seabeds. So yes, they're all technically, pink Himalayan salt is technically sea salt. A lot of people try to argue with me about that, but it's sea salt, guys. It's just evaporated millions of years ago. Let's see. Dennis says, you must be using a light over that wheatgrass. What kind did you choose? I will show you in the video the kind that I choose, but you don't need anything special, okay? You don't need anything special, and you don't need a specialized expensive grow lights or anything like that. So I'll show you in the video coming up on seed starting and stuff like that, how to do it. And what we're gonna do basically is utilize this stuff to test run our seed starting setup. Okay, so we're gonna grow a few for a month or so, a few weeks. We're gonna grow some batches of wheatgrass and microgreens to ensure that our seed starting setup is totally dialed in. Then once we have the microgreens and the wheatgrass growing real good, then we know, okay, we can plant the money crops, the good crops, and they will survive and they will thrive. Okay. But wheatgrass is actually one of the things that you can grow in a windowsill. There's hardly any plants I would ever recommend that. Plants that we eat, I mean, house plants, yes, but there's hardly any. You cannot grow microgreens in a window really and have good success. You can't really, unless you got like a greenhouse window or something. But these microgreen or wheatgrass, you can put in a sunny window and it will grow adequately. So that's pretty much the only thing that I would recommend doing it that way for. Nick Pavlukov. Thank you for the live. $10. Thank you for the tip, my friend. I appreciate you guys. So, okay, I keep seeing and hearing the term labs. What is it, please? Okay, Rhonda. Yeah, I always just assume that everyone has seen every video on the channel, you know what I mean? So, and that we're all on the same page and stuff, but I totally get it. So labs is the lactic acid bacteria serum and the farmhouse cheese. Okay, so if you go back and watch that video, or somebody can link to it in the description or something, but it's the video that I made about a probiotic fertilizer. This is the labs. We make it from milk. And so it's got all kinds of different uses. One of the primary uses is starting all of our ferments. As far as the ferments that we eat, we start with the labs. But also, it's a soil conditioner, soil remediator. It unlocks nutrients that are stored in the soil. It's wonderful for the house plants. It helps to, if you got a musty smell coming from the house plants or something, you can add 2 ounces a gallon of the labs and water with that, and that will totally, the labs will eat the mold. They will eat the mildew. It's just crazy. So all kinds of good uses for that. And thank you. Okay. Hi everyone. Hello, shooting the soil. Hello. And yeah, and guys, if you have like your own garden or something and you want to take some videos of it, tag me in it. But you have to like actually mention me. You have to say @GardenLikeAViking in like the description of the video, or maybe even the title or something like that. You can't just say it. You have to say and then it will tag me, and then I will notice it. But otherwise, I can't notice it. But yeah, go ahead and mention me, in the videos if you want to show me something, which would be cool. I've seen a number of you guys' videos this way. I mean, a number of your gardens this way. It's been super cool. So yes, go ahead and do that. Let's see. Bottom water. Okay. Let us see here. Now, the next thing that's going to be coming, guys, is the ginger. Okay. So yes, if you live in zone 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, well, any of them up until, it's a tropical plant. So contrary to popular belief, you can grow ginger. Okay. So here in zone 5B, 6A, Northern Indiana, we are growing ginger. And like I said at the beginning of the video, this will be my 4th year of growing it. So I'm not an expert on it, but I do know at this point what works and what doesn't. And the primary thing is that we have to start it super early, because ginger does not start building its rhizome until 4 months into its growth period. So ginger is a rhizome. It is not a root. So it grows out and up slightly like this. And it puts roots down and it puts shoots up from these little nubs. You see these little nubs here? Each one of those will become a green shoot. And then after 4 months of establishing its foliage and it's got big, tall, beautiful leaves, then it will begin a robust push to make more rhizomes. And then it will grow like this until it will be, you'll have a big rhizome like this. Although not like, you will not grow something like this. This is from like Hawaii or some tropical place, because we just can't grow it this thick. What you will be growing is more like a baby type ginger, but it is so delicious. The ginger that I grow here is of a whole different kind, because this is the big, thick kind with a thick skin that stores in the supermarket, you know, the organic store for a long time. But the stuff we grow will have virtually no skin at all. You don't have to skin it, and it's not as fibrous, so you can actually eat it. It's the best for pickling. So if you guys like to pickle ginger, or if you like to make kimchi with it, I grow my own ginger to make the kimchi. It's so much more edible. There's no fibrousness to it. So highly recommend growing the ginger. But here's the thing, and this is just a crash. This I'm just briefly mentioning because I'm going to make a video about all of this. But you know, for now, I just want to mention it to you guys. So the let's see a good example here. So what we want to look for, okay, you can just go to the organic store, go to, oh yeah, kombucha as well. I make kombucha with it as well, the fresh ginger. It's delicious. So you can go to the organic store, the co-op or whatever. It has to be organic because the non-organic is usually sprayed with a sprout inhibitor to keep it from sprouting in the store. And so you want to look for the nice plump. You don't want it to be all shriveled up, okay? So you want to look for it, and you want to see the ones with the eyes on it, okay? So like, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this piece, and you see, boom, boom, boom. Each one of these here is going to be a sprout. And so we want each chunk of the rhizome to have preferably 3 eyes. So here's what we're going to do. We won't just plant this whole thing. We're going to take, see this chunk with the 3 eyes? We're going to take it and break it off. Or you probably should cut it. I mean, but I found breaking it is fine. But look, we're going to break it so that it's like this. And then we're going to allow this to air dry for about 3 to 4 days until it's going to heal this. You see here how it healed itself after it breaks? Here it's all wet and succulent still. We want it to heal itself over, and then we're going to start sprouting it. But if you just put it like this, a very high chance that it will rot. And I've learned all of this over the past 3 years, experimenting with it all and stuff. So the ones that I planted immediately will rot, okay? So we're going to break them into things like this, and then we're going to put them for a couple of days, and then we're going to sprout them. So even this one here, okay, it's got 2 eyes on it. Well, kind of 3. So here's another piece. And so see, we're gonna have, and then we're gonna plant these about 8 to 10 inches apart after they sprout. You'll see, I'll do videos on it, but I'm just giving you a brief overview so you can get excited about it, okay? Now, with the ginger, we wanna grow it super early. We wanna start growing it like pretty much in the next couple of weeks because, like I said, it takes 10 to 11 months to harvest ginger, okay? So we'll be starting it in about next week. I'll put the video out. And then anytime up until mid-February is fine. Even March would be okay. And then we'll plant it out. And ginger is a heat lover. It's from the tropics. It loves hot, humid, but it doesn't appreciate direct blazing sun. So actually, if you have an area, ginger is one of the few things that can grow well, very well, that actually prefers sort of partial shade. So if it gets some shade in the heat of the afternoon, or if you live like in the South where it's blazing hot sun, you'll want it to have some shade in the afternoon and stuff. So yeah, get hype about it because growing your own ginger is amazing, all right? And you can also grow turmeric the same way. We're gonna be growing turmeric. It grows the same way as ginger, but I didn't see, the turmeric at the co-op was not very good. So, I mean, a couple of, you know, the same thing. You want the eyes, you know, you want multiple eyes, but this stuff's $16 a pound. So I'm not going to be getting too much of that. But then we can dehydrate it, powder it, and all of that, okay? So let's see. Tree Rogi says, thanks for answering my questions. Another one, what is dirt? How does it get made? Well, that's kind of a big question, but dirt is technically, see, to a guy that in love with the soil, you don't call soil dirt. Dirt is the act of being soiled, the act of being filthy. Dirt is what is under your fingernails. Dirt also could be said it is a combination of sand, silt, and clay. But soil is sand, silt, and clay plus microbiology. That's the key. Soil is alive. And Soil, true soil, is not compost either. Compost is not soil. Soil is made through a very slow process of digesting rocks, basically. Digesting rocks and plant materials, and it takes a very long time. But soil is sand, silt, and clay with microbes. So that is why a thing of Miracle-Gro, potting mix, or any of the soils that you get from the store, unless it's just the bag of topsoil, all those other things are not soil. They are soilless growing mediums. They're growing media. So technically there is no soil in that. And once we start understanding these things, it's kind of a game changer. And if you in the soil, there is plenty of nutrients for all that the plants need, but they are locked up in a form that the plant can't absorb. And so it needs microbiology in order to absorb and unlock and absorb those nutrients. Okay, so there's that answer. A series on the ginger kombucha would be on a different level of badass. Yes, it would be. I will put that in the ginger, maybe in the ginger video. Then at the end to brew your own kombucha with it. Let's see, nice, sounds amazing. Been trying to grow it for a couple of years. Just so cold and short growing season. Also, kombucha is fermented. Do you use labs with it too? No, you don't use labs with the kombucha. You use a kombucha SCOBY, which is a, oh man, I forget what the acronym SCOBY of what it stands for, but you use the SCOBY. You do not use the labs. It's a special type of bacteria, microorganisms. So the thing with the short growing season, you're going to want to make sure that you grow it up properly. So the shorter your growing season, the more grown up you want it to be. It's one of the few things that we want it to be grown up as big as possible before we put it outside. And let's see here. Yes, so the JWA, hopefully you guys have made some of it. Yes. And this is what happens if you use the hard water. This is what happens when it's pure and ideal and perfect. Nice and clear. You see? You can see me through it. This is ideal. This is not going to be nearly as effective. So hopefully you've watched the video I just made. And man, that video took all week. It was like crazy, ridiculously involved to make that video. That's why I was putting it off for a long time, because I knew it was going to be like that. But yeah, hopefully you see the way to make your own wetting agent. That's right. Shooting the Soil says symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeasts. That's what the SCOBY stands for. Yes. And it's a whole different kind of microorganism population than the labs is. So my 70s college professor said soil is mostly worm castings. Well, worm castings are not actually soil. They are castings. And they're organic matter that is very good. And I understand what he means. He probably means that in your yard or in the garden, a significant portion of the mass is worm castings. Yes, that is very true. There is so many worms it would blow your mind. Just look up. I forget the exact figure. I don't want to overstate it. But I'm thinking there can be 20 million earthworms in just 1 acre of soil, of just regular soil. But of thriving garden soil, it's crazy figures. I don't want to say it because I forget exactly. But a huge number. And so especially if you create the habitat for them to thrive in, that is exactly what we're doing outside. And so, man, this soil, when you pull back the mulch and the manures and the leaves and all that, it's just crawling with earthworms. And when I go out there in the springtime, when it's like a real humid night, or if there's a gentle rain, I go out there with the headlamp, and every step you just see dozens and dozens of earthworms just pulling back into their holes. I mean, every step, one more step. There's so many earthworms out there. It's awesome. Let's see here. Labs and kombucha look so similar under the scope. Funny, they're totally different. Ha! Yeah. And he knows because he's got a cool microscope. So check out, he made a video where he was examining some of the JDOM microbial solutions. So that was cool. And yes, under the scope, it would be impossible for us to discern, but it's very, very different. Yeah. Because kombucha is just tea with a sugar source and then the SCOBY. And so the SCOBY is what dictates how it is fermented. So if you put labs in there, if you do sugar and tea and then pour labs in there, it will do something, but it will be totally different. It'll be a totally different experience. And it might not really be consumable. I'm not sure exactly. But it won't be kombucha. It won't taste the same or none of that. That's why it's so important to ferment the things properly with the proper thing. Like our fertilizers for the garden, we pretty much always want to ferment with the leaf mold because the labs is producing a totally different thing for the most part. So nice sound effects. Oh yeah. Well, I had to let you guys know the idea, have you tried a ginger bug? No SCOBY needed. You can make naturally fermented root beer. Nice. How would send me a link or something like that? So how I would figure that out. I'll start experimenting right away. Dennis says roots build soil. Yes, absolutely. Soil building. Now when we're talking about soil building, a different thing as opposed to what is soil. Soil building is a plant-driven process whereby carbon is captured from the atmosphere and pumped into the soil in the form of various exudates and sugars and things like that. Where the carbon that is pumped into the soil changes the actual makeup of the soil. And so that really is what it's all about. When we talk about fertility of the soil, it's all about carbon. And so the only way to actually build the soil is through a living root in the ground. There's no amount of organic matter that can build soil. So can't you grow your own SCOBY? You can grow your own SCOBY if you get if someone gives you a jar of actual living kombucha, yes. But real kombucha though, actually most of the stuff from the store, listen to this, you guys. Most of the stuff from the store that you get has been pasteurized to kill all of the stuff. And then a small amount of enzymes have been added back to it, along with carbonation. So most of it is a joke. Most of the kombucha from the store is a joke. And I'm sorry, if you're paying $5 a container, it's still doing something for you, but it's mostly psychological because the kombucha, there's just such a smaller percentage of the microorganisms, and the carbonation is fake. It's carbonic acid, which is not good for the body, really. So if you tried to shooting the soil, maybe you should try to, if you brew your own kombucha, you should try a video or looking at it under the microscope. Home-brewed, real, true kombucha that's never been adulterated, as opposed to something you get from the store. And look at their activity under the microorganisms, or under the microscope. And you would see that the fresh one is going to be way, way more alive. And you can just tell by the flavor and all of that. So, and I know this because at first it dawned on me when I tried to make a SCOBY from stuff I was buying from the store. I tried like 5 different brands and each one of them would not make a SCOBY. And then I was like, okay, why? And then so I researched into all the process of brewing, commercially brewing kombucha and stuff. And that's when I found out, because it's fake. It's been pasteurized and the original stuff has killed it off. And then they've added a small amount to say that it's full of living cultures. Yeah, but it's kind of fake, like so many things in the food industry. So, and it's just not nearly as vigorous. So that's why it's really difficult to make a SCOBY from store-bought stuff. It's possible, but depending on many factors. But if someone gives you a jar of their kombucha they made, you can easily make a SCOBY, no problem. Just let it sit and it'll make a SCOBY. Okay, far more active. I tried one brand from Vermont that looked almost as good. I can't remember the name. Yeah, it would definitely be. Doesn't the raw kombucha label mean anything, or have I been misled? Man, it will astonish most people how misleading the food industry is. And I mean that in every way. The labels of food don't have to mean anything other than the ingredients. And even that is has been lobbied and all kinds of blanket terms and stuff. Even that is nearly impossible to decipher. So The nutrition facts have to be real, though. But other than that, any claim, all natural, raw, living, all of that can just mean whatever they want. So they've put in a tiny little bit of the, they've reintroduced some of the microorganisms. So they say, yeah, raw, it's living, it's a living food, which, yeah, that's true. But it's not living so much that it's going to start to build a SCOBY. Because if you brew your own kombucha, it doesn't just sit on the shelf or in the refrigerator for weeks and months and get shipped all over the place and still be fine. It will start to form a SCOBY within days, within like 1 week. After bottling it, your home-brewed kombucha will start to want to form a new SCOBY. And you'll take a big drink and you'll get this huge thing of slime and you're like, you know, the first time I was like, what is it? But then I realized, okay, it's the SCOBY trying to form. And so now I do just eat it and it's delicious because I know it's so good for me. But yeah, so great question, Christopher Mennel. Where's his question? Let's see. GT's kombucha is not raw. Well, I don't want to be the one to go against them, but like I've explained, if they're adding in a little bit of stuff, they can just claim that it's raw. But no, GT pasteurizes their stuff and then reintroduces stuff. It's not the same. Okay, how can I get rid of moles? Guys, that's been a hot topic of debate on this channel, but I think what we've come to, right? What have we come to? We've said juicy fruit or fruit stripe or bazooka bubblegum. You take that and you put it into their tunnels all over the place and it attracts them and they chew on it and they can't digest it and they perish, thus becoming fertilizer for the soil. And so that is the way to do it. And you put the bubblegum. I think fruit stripe or juicy fruit is what we've come to terms with. So yes, that's based upon dozens of recommendations of people doing that. So even though I've never done that myself, that is what you guys have been recommending. So that's what I suggest. Taida says, I love eating SCOBY. Yeah, I know. It's kind of unique, isn't it? So food industry is about profit yield per acre, not about health. That's absolutely right, my friend. And until yield is no longer the determining factor for payment, that it's going to continue to be just a monstrosity of whatever you got to do to get the biggest and most weight, because yield is king as far as weight and stuff. So no, what needs to happen is nutrient density is king. You are paid based upon how nutrient dense your food is. And then could you even imagine? That would transform everything. So it's not about how big or how much the weight of it, it's about its nutrient density. And then that changes everything. Then all of a sudden a mad race to make the most nutrient dense possible. But that would never happen because one, that would make people too healthy. So the medical industry would lose, the health supplement industry would lose. You wouldn't need to take supplements. You know, the fitness industry, all their bogus supplements would lose. So too much money would be gone out of the system if nutrient density was the key factor that you got paid upon as a farmer. So, but fortunately for us, we don't have to get paid by the man for our produce. So we can grow the most nutrient dense produce possible. And we have to let go of the thought of bigger is better and yield is king and all of that. No, totally natural organic stuff may be much smaller or may be a little bit deformed or may have some insect marks on it or maybe this or that. But the flavor and the nutrient density are off the charts compared to anything that you get from a store. Anything. So, will the gum work for mice? I don't know. I don't think so with the mice. Yeah, I don't know. It depends. Where's the mice? Are they in your garden? Or are they in your house? If they're in your house, the bucket method. Guys, I used to live in a place that was infested. This was in the mountains. Infested with the mice. And I made a couple of those bucket traps. And the first night, there was like 14 of them in the bucket afterwards. It was just crazy how effective those things are. And then I made one out of a 55-gallon drum for rats and used a dowel rod and the thing, put the peanut butter on it and stuff, and caught a bunch of rats in the barn. So let's see. And then you just compost the mice. Yeah, after that. So food grown for profit is nowhere near the same as food grown for nutrition, says Blue Wolf. That is exactly correct, my friend. And the best we can get from buying something is from a farmer's market. That will be the most nutrient dense as far as what we can purchase. But even that is not infused with the love that our garden is infused with. And that's the missing ingredient. You know, it's just the little tiny things, and we'll just call all those little things the love. And that is what makes the difference. You know, babying everything, nurturing it, and the energy and all of that. That goes into the nutrient vibration as well. The stuff from the store is a joke. Conventional stuff is just more and more depleted of nutrients. And you can look up these studies and stuff where a conventional apple from the store, based upon one from the 1940s and one to now, has 80% less nutrients in it. Listen to that. The same apple from 1940 to right now, this apple now has 80% less minerals and nutrients in it, based upon laboratory analysis. And that should tell us everything that we need to know as far as health and the obesity epidemics and all the medications and everyone's just ill. So not everyone, not you guys, but so many people, not me, are just ill. And that is a big part of it. And all the neurological disorders and all the ADDs and autisms and all that stuff, because everyone is mineral deficient because our food no longer has the minerals in it. So that's why it's so important to be growing your own stuff rich in nutrients and minerals. So let's see here. Luke says, let's not even talk about what they're putting in the pigs and cows now. You can probably guess. If you don't know, look it up and be aware. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's not even talk about it. I mean, we will at some point, but yes, absolutely. That is all the more reason that we will grow our own hay, feed our own cattle and chickens and hogs and stuff like that. We all will do our own. And as soon as I get land somewhere again, you will see all of that. I will take you guys on the whole journey, starting from ground zero, how to remediate. I'll probably find like an abandoned farm, you know, with a bunch of junk all over the place, which will be fine for me, because I see supplies where other people see junk, you know, a lot of times. And we will be able to, you'll see from ground one. And we'll get the cows and we'll get all of that stuff. It'll be super awesome. So, yeah. Captain Jerry says, hi, Nate. Captain Jerry, I talked to you about this before. My koi pond, I'm using the settlement on the bottom of that, like the JMS solution, is a sense I use no chemicals in my pond. Yes, and how is that working for you? Now, that is going to be, so you're utilizing the sediment from the bottom of your koi pond. That is going to be very beneficial for the plants, but it is not going to be a supplement for the JMS. The microbial solution has to be very particular. The soil from the oldest forest in the area, the leaf mold soil, or we can make our own if we're in a desert area. But we need to capture those indigenous microorganisms and then cultivate those and reintroduce them into our garden soil. So while what you're making is very beneficial and continue to use it, you still need to make the JMS because they're not interchangeable. So, and I remember that question. Let's see. Thoughts on staying free of creepy rodents? Maybe a video? Oh man, yeah. Well, the thing is that a lot of the garden people and stuff, they don't, you know, they're not keen on the bucket method and stuff like that. They think that it's you know, barbaric and stuff like that, which, okay, that's fair enough. But at the same time, all of my methods come from living in the mountains for those years. And way, way, way off grid, to where if the animals are destroying the food supply, they are really, that's a threat to our survival. So you whatever it takes to get rid of the rodents, because you cannot have them destroying the food supply. So it's like a war. So it's like either them or me. So it's obviously not going to be me, it's going to be them. So in that case, the bucket traps and all of that stuff is totally justified in my opinion and experience. But yeah, so that's why I probably won't do a video on that until I get to the new, you know, like what I was talking about. If we do the new place and stuff, then I would gladly do different videos about all that stuff. Let's see. Becky says, I hope you get your farm soon, Nate. We are all praying for you. Thank you very much, my friend. And I know you mean that. Have you ever heard of using coral sand to make liquid calcium instead of using eggshells? Yes, I have heard of that. If you have access to the coral sand in some way, then sure, you can utilize that. Anything that is going to be seashells can be utilized. Anything that is the carbon, we need the calcium is what we need. So oyster shells, all of that kind of stuff will work. Prawn shells, though, I had a question about prawn shells and crab shells, not so much. That's not the same concentration. It's got more different stuff in it. The thing about the eggshells is that it's available. We use it. We have it anyways. And so I do the garlic with honey. It's delicious. Tastes like candy. Nice. Okay, guys, we're coming to a close here before too long. If you guys have any burning questions, you let me know. And let us see here. And any tips on when to use soil from Bokashi Soil Factory? I used 1/3 from food scraps and 2/3 soil to make it. I'm mostly interested in using it in pots. Okay, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with using Bokashi. I mean, I've seen it and I understand the process, but I just regular compost, so I haven't had to use Bokashi. And if you make a good, thriving compost, you're not gaining anything by using Bokashi. Bokashi isn't better than good quality compost. It's just different, okay? A different method. So, will you be doing beef bone meal soon? Yes, I'm going to. I still got all those bones from the bone marrow video. I still got all those outside in the cold, just waiting until the right opportunity to make the bone fertilizer video. But yes, I will be making that, okay? The Garden Like a Viking. Have you given any thought about crowdfunding that farm you're talking about? I had never thought about that, actually. I've never thought about that. That's a very good idea, though. And I feel like once the channel grows, maybe another year to a couple of years, there will be a lot more, it'll be a lot more reach, perhaps, and there will be more ideas and opportunities or opinions. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm focusing all my efforts in this right now. But yeah, that's a great idea. Do you only eat what you grow, or do you still shop at the store? I shop at the store for things like spices. I use all kinds of cinnamon and cardamom and stuff, and of course salt and things, and coffee. I buy that kind of stuff. But the main things that I have to buy is beef. It is animal products, beef and eggs. So I've got some Amish friends that have grass-fed beef, so I eat raw beef liver, raw bone marrow a lot. Also, I eat beef, but all my veg, no, I grow all of it, man. I mean, potatoes, onions, garlic, winter squash, sweet potatoes. I've got all that stuff still downstairs. All kinds of dehydrated stuff, dehydrated peppers and spices, and peas from the freezer, because I got that bean shelling machine now, which you guys will see this year. Beans that I've grown myself, all that stuff I grow myself. I really hardly ever have to get rice is about the only thing. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much all the stuff. And then I ferment everything, so I've still got fresh tomatoes and all kinds of good stuff. So, okay, my friends, let's see. Do the Amish use Grazon? No, absolutely not. They don't, because they use the manure from their own animals. The Amish do not use that stuff, unless you've got some fake Amish somewhere. But no. So, okay, guys. Well, every Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time, that is 12 noon New York time, we do this live stream. So, same time, same place. Thank you all for stopping by, and make sure when you watch the videos and stuff, you give them a thumbs up. You also leave a comment on the video. That really helps the channel to grow, and we want to get all this knowledge out to as many people as possible. And as the channel grows, we have more knowledge base to draw from. That's really a huge key, is that like right now, when I ask a question, okay guys, what do you think about moles or something like that? We'll have so much more experience base to draw from when we need to find out things that we don't currently yet know. So that's very valuable. So I'm looking forward to that. So, okay, my friends, thank you for everything.